Okay, so it's already recording, right? I see that. Okay,
Yeah.
great. But I suspect I will have to ask permission to record. So if we record the meeting, we will make the recording available as well. Okay, so welcome everybody. So officially I'm opening our little event now. This is an event that we've started to organize from the AIS Special Interest Group on Intelligent Systems. The ODIS is still legacy. We're still trying to change that. It was always ontology-driven information systems, but we've changed it now to semantic and intelligence information systems. And one of the topics that we've discussed between us is that we think one of the dire needs that we've got nowadays is to understand how to integrate AI into information systems and computing curricula in general. So I'm Aurona Gerber. I'm currently the chair of the SIG ODIS group, and my two fellow organizers are also online. It is Vijay Sugurmaran as well as Annette Abers. Yeah, we are quite excited to actually bring this event to you. And as you will see, we've got an interesting lineup. So let me go to the next slide and just quickly talk about the program. I'm going to give a very quick introduction, just to set the scene. And then we are very excited to have Armand here that's going to talk to us about Let's Play Game using no-code AI to reduce human cognitive load. He is with BMW. He's working at the IT Hub in South Africa. And this paper was actually accepted for SIG last year. So Armand, you can give a little bit more information when it's your turn. Then I'm very excited to also have a graduate student here. She finished her 4th year this year at my university, University of the Western Cape. And she's going to talk about, experiences with the development of an LLM-based tutor using a low-code platform, specifically VectorShift. And then we've managed to ask Albert Mao, which is a co-founder of VectorShift, to give us a little bit of a demonstration. And I'll just give a little bit of a background about VectorShift as well. And then, fortunately, we've got our Dan Arnold here, which is he's a manager of support services at Oakland University, and he's going to talk about how to incorporate generative AI into teaching and learning. So we've got quite a packed program. We hope to not keep you more than 2 hours. Okay, so those minutes includes Q&A. So speakers, please just look at your time that you've got. So a little bit from my side to put the background and the motivation for this talk or this event. Of course, everybody is aware that AI are basically transforming all sectors, right? Education, one of them. Interesting thing about education, of course, it transforms education as a sector, but also education has to produce the students that work in other sectors. So we have to upskill our students. And the relevance of AI skills is just becoming increasingly critical. So most companies identify lack of AI skills as very critical for their future business endeavors. Then we know AI is just growing alarmingly fast. Forbes expect an annual growth rate of 36% from, last year essentially up to 2030. And as I said, there's a massive AI skills demand, right? And it's increasing all the time. And it's an essential skill for our students going into the future world of work. So what do we do? Okay, so one of the things that we found very interesting is that no-code platforms seem to provide a very interesting angle to integrate AI into curricula. No-code platforms are actually regarded by many people as instrumental because there's no need for extensive programming knowledge. It simplifies AI implementation, so no-code platforms eliminate the complexity of traditional coding and allows for quick AI development. And of course, it's quite accessible to both educators and learners. This opens a little bit of a Pandora's box because, sometimes if you work with easy tools, you're not always really geared to understand the consequences. So that is a very interesting field for further research. So just quickly, and I know everybody else is most probably going to talk about that. I think I saw that on Armand's slide as well. No-code platforms aren't new, and we usually have no-code, low-code together. It is a software development approach that requires few, if any, programming skills to quickly build an application. So no-code has been around for quite a while, right? It was about software development in general. But now with the rapid increased AI capabilities that we see with large language models, as well as the power of AI applications, we see a massive growth in no-code environments, okay? Gen AI is one of them. That's why VectorShift is here today, because Gen AI suddenly just allows for, these multi-agent systems. And there are quite a number of solutions by all large Gen AI companies, to support no-code or low-code environments. So I'm quickly going to provide some examples of these kinds of platforms, but there's a huge disclaimer. I haven't compared platforms. What I'm giving you is basically what I have been exposed to. So for a few years now, I've been using RapidMiner, which is regarded by quite a lot of people as very innovative with regards to their quick deployment of AI pipelines, not necessarily Gen AI here. We're talking about AI pipelines. And this is a typical screen, right? So you basically drag these little boxes to get your data and to clean your data and to basically develop the models and to get the result. Very interesting, incredibly powerful. It allows, for instance, for data cleaning and data wrangling using AI. So, you can give it a data set and it will, allow you to basically optimize modeling and optimize your data wrangling and things such as that. It's a very, very powerful environment, regarded as a no-code, low-code environment, because you can do a complete, what do you call it, an enterprise deployment using RapidMiner. But if you just look at all the different alternatives to RapidMiner in 2024, you can just see all of them, right? And it's basically all of these have no-code or low-code capabilities. So very interesting how fast this field is developing. And then, of course, VectorShift, which is now the catalyst in AI automation. So VectorShift allows one to actually use Gen AI. So it's an AI automation platform that empowers users to create and deploy autonomous AI agents that uses, for instance, your large language models or some of the generative AI environments. So I found this incredibly interesting. And this is on the left-hand side. This is basically how your interface, it's a web-based interface, would look. Here I wrote a little tutor example, which basically interfaces using OpenAI's LLM, but you can use other LLMs as well, right? And then what I did for this year for my honors projects, I basically asked students to use a no-code environment and to expose them to RAG application development using VectorShift specifically. Now, again, as I said, my disclaimer is I haven't compared it with other platforms. So I just felt it's fair that we also say what other ones are available. Now, you can just see at the left, on the right-hand side, right? So we've got Vertex AI, Bento ML, Amazon SageMaker, Ketonic, and so on. All of these environments are basically no-code, low-code environments that allows for rapid AI development. Again, that's basically it from my side. At the bottom is a link, and Smit will again post the link if you're interested in, receiving, for instance, this video as well as future events. We've submitted a mini track at AMSIS, so we will be at AMSIS as well. So if you want to receive that information, please just fill in the little form, and then we will talk to you. So I don't know whether we've got any questions. I must now just stop my share quickly, so that I can just get to my screen. Great.
I was just going to say, we encourage people to join the SIG ODIS as well, so be part of the group. We have to put a shameless plug.
So I see my video was off. Sorry about that. I actually thought my video was on. Yes, everybody, please, of course, you're welcome to join the SIG as well. You will see we're on there. As I say, we still have the acronym SIG ODIS. But it's basically, AIS Special Interest Group on Intelligent Systems.
Yep.
So, okay, I don't see any questions. And I think, therefore, we're going to move to our next speaker, which is Armand Graaff from BMW. So, Armand, are you ready to share?
Yeah, let me just quickly share my screen.
Thank you so much. And I'll be monitoring the chat, and afterwards. And yeah, you've got around about 25 minutes, so including some Q&A. So thank you. Over to you.
Yeah, so you can see my slides, right?
Just want to confirm. We can see your slides. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so my name is Armand, and together with some colleagues, Danie, Smit, and Sunette Abers, we wrote an article last year on the topic of no-code AI tools and how it can decrease the cognitive load placed on humans when solving difficult problems. So yeah, the title of the article is, as you see here, Let's Play Games Using No-Code AI to Reduce Human Cognitive Load During AI Solution Development. And we use design science research cycles as well as the cognitive fit theory to explore this cognitive load. Right, so just a bit of background on the paper. So artificial intelligence, or AI, has become deeply embedded in our daily lives. I'm sure most of you know about it or have used ChatGPT or some similar large language model. And a lot of people are already highly dependent on the use of it in their daily lives. And even some very experienced programmers that I know that used or that was coding for many 20 plus years without LLMs are already telling me that they are dependent on it. So yeah. And then secondly, research shows that in the short term, the use of AI in organizations will tend towards a human-machine partnership. And the cognitive fit theory provides a framework that we can use to analyze this human-machine relationship and analyze the cognitive load that takes place on humans and how AI can assist with this. So the research goal was to explore how AI, and specifically no-code AI, can be used to reduce a human cognitive load when solving challenging problems. And we'll use an example of tic-tac-toe and an isomorphic Scrabble card game to illustrate this concept. And a no-code tool that we'll be using is called Data Robot. So just a quick recap on this again. What is no-code AI? It's just a tool that assists data scientists and business practitioners in exploring problems using machine learning by writing little to no code. These no-code AI tools can be used to build AI artifacts, or otherwise known as AI models. In our paper, we use the term AI artifacts. Yeah, and it also assists data scientists to speed up the machine learning lifecycle process by streamlining both the pre-processing and model development. And it also enables non-technical practitioners to use machine learning, and because it removes the barriers of writing code. All right, so what is this cognitive fit theory? The cognitive fit theory basically determines the effectiveness of a given problem-solving process. So in this paper, we use the cognitive fit theory to evaluate the human cognitive load of a task or solving a task. So for the cognitive fit theory, you can see on the left, there are basically two places where high cognitive load can be introduced. Firstly is the problem representation, which is understanding the problem as an AI problem, and also framing it as an AI problem. And this can sometimes be difficult and complex, and therefore introduce high cognitive load. In our article, we tried to think of the most simple example of this, and what we came up with is playing an isomorphic Scrabble card game of tic-tac-toe. I mean, if this is still a bit unclear, please bear with me. I'll explain this in more detail shortly. And then the second problem-solving element here is the problem-solving task. So this is how you will actually solve the problem that you framed in the problem representation. So in our case, we developed an AI model to solve the problem, but developing an AI model is part of the solution, and this development of the AI model is not easy. So this can also introduce high cognitive load for the human. In our example, we solve this by using no-code AI. So yeah, in this study, this mental representation part that you see here is the relationship between understanding the AI problem, so that's the problem representation, and the ability to solve the problem, which is the problem solution or problem solving task. Yeah, so just to recap, we use this cognitive fit theory as a theoretical lens, not to not only frame the problem representation, but also to propose, develop, and evaluate a possible solution. So depending on this problem representation or the problem-solving task, the whole system can have either a low cognitive load or a high cognitive load. So if either one of these two has a high cognitive load, then the mental representation will have a high cognitive load as well. So right, now we get to the Scrabble card game as an isomorph of tic-tac-toe. So firstly, what do we mean by the word isomorph? So isomorphism is a concept in mathematics and computer science, which describes that a relationship between two structures that are essentially the same, but just represented differently. So despite differences in the visual representation and the specific rules, the underlying game dynamics are exactly the same. So mathematically, tic-tac-toe and the Scrabble card game is the same game, just represented differently. And the whole idea is it's more difficult for a human to play the Scrabble card game, even though it's the same problem that you need to solve. So we can quickly go over the games, the rules of the two games. I'm sure everyone knows the rules of tic-tac-toe. It's just a classic 3x3 grid-based game where players take turns placing their marks either X or O on the grid, and with the goal of getting 3 in a row, either horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. The Scrabble card game, this was inspired by the popular board game Scrabble, but instead of a grid, you just have 9 cards ranging from 1 to 9, and each player gets a turn to pick a card with the goal of getting the sum of the cards drawn to sum to 15. So these games are the same in the sense that you have 9 options on each side. Each player gets a turn to go one by one, and they need to reach a certain goal, or they need to block the other player from reaching that goal before them. So in this way, these games are the same. And therefore, we say the Scrabble card game is an isomorph of tic-tac-toe. Right. So just to recap this point, playing the Scrabble card game is more difficult than tic-tac-toe. I mean, it looks easy, but when you play the game, you actually realize it's not that easy to win the game compared to tic-tac-toe. Right, now the last component that I need to get to is this design science research cycles. So what is these design science research cycles? It's an approach that lends itself towards developing an artifact in a quest to enhance the knowledge and understanding of a set problem. So it's also where the word AI artifact that we use in this paper comes from. So this is what the normal design science research cycle looks like. You start with awareness of the problem as an AI problem, then suggesting a modeling procedure, you develop the actual model, and then you evaluate. And if in the evaluation where we use the CFT or the cognitive fit theory, if the cognitive load is still high, we kick off another cycle to try and reduce it. So this is basically where all of the components fit together. This is how our research strategy looks like. In the center, we have this tic-tac-toe game, which sort of ties everything we are doing back to a simple example to make it easier to understand. And then the other 3 main components in the paper are this design science research cycle. So you can see in cycle 1, we train a neural network to play tic-tac-toe, what's actually the Scrabble card game, because that's the difficult problem that we're trying to solve. And then in the second cycle, we use no-code AI to develop the model. We also have the cognitive fit theory that we use to evaluate the cognitive load after each cycle. And then we have this Scrabble card isomorph of the tic-tac-toe game. All right, so let's move on to the implementation. So in these are cycle 1. You can see here on the right-hand side that in the original problem state, winning the Scrabble card game introduced a high human cognitive load. So you can see on the image that the tic-tac-toe game has a low cognitive load and the card game has a high cognitive load. since it's difficult to play, or at least difficult to win. And in the first DSR cycle, we trained a neural network to play tic-tac-toe and the Scrabble card game using traditional AI tools, so basically just using coding. And yeah, I'll give more information on this specifically in the next slide. But after DSR cycle 1, so after training the AI to play the Scrabble card game on your behalf, that was reduced to a low cognitive load, but now we introduced another source of high cognitive load, which is building the actual AI agent model. So yeah, therefore we kick off DSR cycle 2, which is to go quickly over the artifact development in DSR cycle 1. These are the steps that we followed. So the technical approach was inspired by image classification. Basically, this just means that we encoded the board states that similar to how you would encode an image before training an AI model on it. The AI agent had to learn by experimenting and observing through self-play. So basically what this means is we set the AI agent to look at the tic-tac-toe board and observe the moves being played, and then establish if those moves led to a win. This would be like a human watching someone else play. It's important to note that the AI agent does not know the rules of the game, so no one explained or coded the rules to the AI. It was purely trained by observation. Yeah, so the basic idea was as follows. Firstly, you play thousands of games and just let the AI observe it, and then you train an AI model based on these moves. And this machine learning approach is actually called reinforcement learning. Right, and then the board and move data were then formatted using one-hot encoding. So it's just a format that the machine learning model can understand and train on. So our final artifact was a machine learning model that can both play tic-tac-toe and the Scrabble card game. And all of this was done with coding in Python. And yeah, all of this is a relatively complex process and introduces high cognitive load. Therefore, we go through the DSR cycles again for a second cycle, this time trying to remove the cognitive load of developing the AI model. And this is where no-code AI comes in. So right, the objective of the second DSR cycle was to reduce the cognitive load of developing the AI agent, as I said before. And the solution was to use DataRobot to build this agent, and it would play the Scrabble card game on your behalf, just like we had at the start. Now, all the manual effort related to training the model is done by DataRobot, and therefore building the AI agent model is also of low cognitive load. Therefore, we've reached a state of total low cognitive load in the system. So you can now train an AI agent to play the card game, which is a difficult problem that you want to solve. And you can also train that AI with no-code AI. So there's also not high cognitive load. All right, so the steps we took for the second DSR cycle was similar to the first step, but the model training was done automatically. And DataRobot automatically selected and trained the most suitable models for the data. And the platform also provided blueprints to explain the model training process and making it easier to understand for users. So yeah, this final artifact could play both the games and had low cognitive load. All right, just to give a bit more information on how the agent was trained. This is the process basically that we used. We let the tic-tac-toe game play thousands of times, and then this gameplay history was stored in the gameplay file. Once we had, I'm not sure the exact number, but a couple thousand games, we then trained the model on that data. So in the first DSR cycle, we used Python. Then we went over to DataRobot. And then once you have a trained neural network, you end up with an AI agent that can play the tic-tac-toe game or the Scrabble card game on your behalf. So it's just a different model that you trained if it's tic-tac-toe or the Scrabble game. All right. So as you can see, we went through this process twice. So this was before training. We let agent S play against the untrained agent. And at the start, agent S was also not trained. And then it won basically 50% of the time, which makes sense. Then we let these games play thousands of times, as I said, and we trained Agent S on the moves that led to a win. So it would know which moves to make. And then we saw if we let Agent S play against the untrained agent, it won a lot more. We still wasn't happy with this model though. We wanted to improve it a bit more. So we took all the data from the untrained agents, all the data from Agent S. We threw everything together and trained a model called Agent L. So we reached this AI agent step. We let it play the tic-tac-toe game thousands of times, and also stored that in the gameplay history file, and then kicked off the training again. And we ended up with this model that's a lot better. All right, so let's quickly look again at how we determined if there was a high cognitive load or not. Before the first DSR cycle, playing the Scrabble card game at a high cognitive load for the human, and DSR cycle 1 moved the cognitive load from the problem representation to the problem solving task. So high cognitive load here was removed, but then we introduced it here because now we had to develop an AI model. And then after the second cycle, we used no-code AI. So it also removed it here, and you end up with a state that has no cognitive load, or it has a low cognitive load overall. Right, yeah. I just want to do a video demonstration quickly. I did add the video as part of the PowerPoint, but it made my PowerPoint crash the whole time. So I'm just quickly going to exit the slideshow and then show the video here. So this is basically our trained AI agent now that we're just hosting this on a website. Yeah, and if I play against it, I can then select my moves. And at each state, you can see what the neural network does. So it takes the board state as an input. So it's all of these zeros and ones. And then it predicts an output based on what it learned in those thousands of games. So yeah, let me see. So yeah, you can see it predicted that it should go for 0.219 because it was the highest out of all of these. And the numbers go from like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it placed an X there. So after I placed my second O, it then predicted with 0.447% that it should place it there, and so forth. So as there's less and less spaces to place an X, at the end it had 0.978 because it was the only space left. Yeah, you can see I played a draw against this agent. That's basically the best I can do. I can't win it because it's just too good. Then if you go to the Scrabble game, if I select, so just firstly I played against the untrained agent just to show you the difference. I select the 4, then it selects a 3, then I go for the 6, and then the 5. So I have 15 on the side and I won. But when I move to the trained agent and I reset the game, I'm going to do exactly the same moves, but there it selected the 5 and sort of puts you in a corner, and then the agent won me. And it's a lot more difficult to draw this game than it is tic-tac-toe. All right, let me just carry on with the slideshow. All right, so no-code AI for accessible AI solutions. So no-code AI makes these AI solutions more accessible for basically anyone. And no-code AI tools allows non-experts to also build these models. It transfers high cognitive load of coding or statistics to the AI assistant, and it enables educators and students to leverage AI without deep technical expertise. For example, using no-code AI to create AI agents for educational games or simulations. Then, so what are the benefits of AI in education? So I'm just giving a couple examples here, but you can have, for example, personalized learning experiences, intelligent tutoring systems. Here I'm specifically thinking of large language models. You can also have automated grading and feedback, enhanced educational content creation. You can also improve accessibility and inclusivity, and so forth. There's thousands of examples. So by leveraging AI, especially no-code AI tools, educators can reduce cognitive load and empower students to benefit from advanced technologies in learning. All right, then my concluding remarks. Basically, no-code AI tools can address the cognitive fit problem by reducing the complexity introduced by a high cognitive load problem. No-code AI can be used in various disciplines, such as sales, forecasting, cost estimation, clustering of target markets, hundreds of different examples to develop these AI solutions. And the results are limited to the data robot platform for this example and the tic-tac-toe implementation. So yeah, if you want to take this to the next level, I would say further research is needed.
Thank
right,
you.
and then if you want to play the games yourself, you can just scan these QR codes. You should be able to play it on your phone, tic-tac-toe and Scrabble. And then if you want a link to our paper, you can just scan this QR code. Yeah.
Oh, thank
That's
you,
it from my
Armand. I
side.
think that's great. Thank you so much. I don't see any questions in the chat. Do we have questions from the audience? You can just raise a hand or whatever. Vijay.
Hello. Armand, wonderful presentation. I will definitely look at the paper. One quick question that I had was, since the games are represented as just series of numbers, you use the basic, fully connected neural network. Would you try other models like LSTM or RNN? Would it improve even better? Because these are literally sequences of numbers. And so LSTMs are better trained for picking up the patterns in sequences of numbers. So I was
we didn't think of that, but yeah, no, we can try that. I also just think it's nice to be able to show the neural network output and how it makes the decisions for educational purposes. But yeah, we can definitely try other techniques as well.
Yeah, I will be curious to see if it actually makes a lot of difference. Minor differences probably not that useful, but if it makes an order of magnitude difference in terms of efficiency, maybe that's worth looking at.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very nice.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I think regarding time, we can move on. Thanks so much. I don't see questions. Armand has got his email. If anybody wants to talk to him on the email, I mean, he's got shared his email in the chat. Let me just say it like that, so anybody can contact him. Right, Sithabile, are we going to move over to you? Are you ready?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Prof.
Great, thank you. Can you share?
I'm sharing.
So Sithabile is, as I said, she's a final year, 4th year graduate student that used a low-code, no-code environment for a project, for a final year project.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sithabile Sikhunyana. I am a final year computer science student at the University of the Western Cape. And today I will be sharing with you my experience with developing a large language model-based tutor using VectorShift. Looking into the project context, this is a final year project where I developed a large language model-based tutor to address challenges in the South African mathematics education. And this project was supervised by Professor Aurona. So the role of this tutor is to guide grade 8 learners through algebra problems by providing step-by-step guidance and encouraging independence. The tutor is going to be able to adapt its responses to each learner's pace and understanding, and providing real-time feedback and correct their mistakes and reinforce learning. It also supports learners with an empathetic and motivational language. So we initially looked at different platforms to develop this LLM-based tutor, and we ended up, upon our investigation, ended up deciding on VectorShift because of its user-friendly no-code interface, the ability to integrate it with various data sources, and also the opportunity to learn to use no-code platforms. Also, VectorShift allows for rapid development and iteration, and also it also offers the ability to choose and switch between different large language models, and it also offers flexible deployment options. I'll now talk about my experience, which is what went well with using this platform for developing this LLM-based tutor. So while using VectorShift, I was able to easily experiment with different large language models to find the best model for the chatbot's needs. That is, for example, like OpenAI's models, and I ended up taking the GPT-4o model. And also, VectorShift allows for easy customization of, for example, the chatbot. As you can see here on the side, this is a ChatGPT-like interface. So I was able to easily design this intuitive and engaging experience for grade 8 learners, specifically, since this is designed for grade 8 learners, which are much younger learners. Another thing that worked really well with VectorShift is the ability to quickly test and refine while developing the chatbot by just adjusting the large language model prompts. And also it allowed incorporation with, for example, educational sites, so that on the chatbot knowledge base, which resulted in accurate, relevant, and contextually appropriate responses that are aligned with the curriculum of the learners. While most of the things went well while developing the chatbot, there were some challenges. For example, that was, since this is an algebra tutor, one of the challenges that I faced was the mathematical expressions on VectorShift, like putting the mathematical expressions was a problem which caused confusion. But then because of limited time, I wasn't able to explore solutions to this. But then in the future, this is something that I'm gonna explore. And then another problem that I faced was that the large language model-based tutor will sometimes ignore the provided guidance on the prompt, which led to inconsistent and unclear responses from the LLM-based tutor. And I think that this problem can be solved through prompt engineering, but then now prompt engineering can be quite challenging. And I think that with more experience, you can improve a RAG solution like this one through prompt engineering. So in the future, I'm planning to improve this chatbot's adaptability to each learner's needs, and also broaden its focus to other grades, as it's currently just focused on grade 8 algebra, and also refine its formatting for mathematical expressions, and add interactive tools such as quizzes and gamified elements. And also with innovation and more research, I can also experiment with newer large language models. This project was quite a rewarding and hands-on experience with no code, which gave me an exposure to the no code development and AI integration. And also VectorShift enabled fast testing, iteration, and refinement which allowed quick development and adjustments to my LLM-based tutor. And I gained valuable skills using the no-code platforms to integrate artificial intelligence and build scalable solutions and rapidly prototype applications. Thank you.
Oh, you're done. Okay, great. It's it would have been great. I mean, okay, so from my side as the supervisor that's barging in, the math chommer was really cute. You know, if a student asked a question that was outside of the scope, because that was part of the thing, you know, it would tell the student, yeah, they cannot ask those questions because this is a grade 8 tutor. And on top of that, you know, if the student was despondent or something like that, the chatbot was actually very supportive, you know, told them, yeah, they shouldn't be despondent, and, you know, give them some encouraging remarks. So that was cool. Do we have questions? Anybody?
I will, yeah, it was very nice, Sithabile. I was curious if we had some screenshots of how the interface looked like for the tutor and how the interaction was, because I think the power of this is the ability to converse and kind of guide the student along a certain path, right? So, and also LLMs are, not too good for, math related stuff to begin with anyway. So, how did you control, some of the interactions, if it starts to do some weird stuff, or, what is the scope of the knowledge content, in terms of what kind of assistance the tutor would provide? I guess, in other words, the level of complexity.
When it came to controlling, I would look at how it interacts best with the student, and also try to mostly I focus on the prompt. So I would look at how the tutor interacts with the student. For example, if it directly provides answers to the learner, then I will try to make sure that the prompt emphasizes that it shouldn't provide answers to the learner. And then when it came to the knowledge base, I took the which is the CAPS curriculum, which is what grade 8 learners use in South Africa, which is the South African curriculum. So I use content from that, and I uploaded documents on the VectorShift knowledge base. And also I tried integrating a link to an CAPS curriculum site on the internet, which was Siyavula. Yes.
Okay, right. Because I think, the chatbot type environments are really good as a tutor, but then when you get to the fringes of the content, it starts to do some weird stuff. Because we are trying to build very similar kind of application for the medical school here, trying to teach anatomy, for example, right? And so medical students can interact with the chatbot, and then it provides a particular case, and then the students have to answer or diagnose or whatever the case may be, right? And so, things work if they are relatively straightforward kind of interaction and questions, but then stuff happens when it kind of hits the fringes. And so
Yeah.
that's why, it's hard to control, and so you want to make it as natural as possible, but then also true to the content as well. So, that's why I was curious to what level, like you limited for the whatever 8th grade content, which is, I guess, okay, yeah.
Yeah, the
So,
one thing that I can just say, I mean, of course, it depends on the knowledge base, right? And then your prompt engineering plays a big role. So if you really constrain the RAG solution, the tutor, to the knowledge base that you provide, you do manage hallucinations a little bit better. And of course, here we had a relatively small focus area, right? It was, you were only allowed to handle this piece of content, which is just grade 8 algebra. I think when you go to more advanced tutors like your anatomy one, it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to handle the hallucinations. Yeah. In this case, it actually worked quite well. One of the biggest things was just to expose students to, developing such kinds of RAG solutions, understand the effectiveness of prompt engineering and the knowledge base, and how this vector base, this vector database as input actually helps, to constrain the whole solution. So that was, it was an interesting experience. I mean, as these large language models become better, the results are better. So I don't know, do you want to add something, Sithabile?
No, Prof, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure Dan would talk a little bit about in his presentation. He built very similar things, like he's part of the ELIS here support group. And so people ask questions like, oh, how do I do this on Moodle, or how do I do that, or whatever.
Yeah.
So he actually built a very nice application, kind of Q&A type stuff. And I'm sure he might talk about that too.
That seems to be one of the biggest applications that I think we're going to see very soon, are basically these kinds of AI agents based on large language models that play the role of the Q&A kind of things, right?
Right.
A little bit of a tutor and so on. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. Dan,
Wonderful.
we're looking forward to your presentation, which I had made or did some marketing for you. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat. Oh, you said you could mention it. Great. Okay, so thank you so much, Sithabile. I know it was quite a daunting task for you. I put you on the spot.
Very nice, Sithabile.
Yeah.
So, are you a master's student or a PhD student? Master's.
No,
I'm an honors in 4th year.
Oh, okay. Oh, 4th year. Okay. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
so it's
Sorry,
really,
I
you know,
missed
that is also why the tutor was, of course, a smaller project, because it's
Yeah,
only
yeah.
the 4th year computer science. So hopefully
Okay.
Sithabile is going to
Wonderful.
move into masters now. We will hold thumbs.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
really cool that you built it to express empathy and be supportive, and we're very intentional about that. Yeah, I think that that's a nice touch and something that, you know, many of these, you know, tutoring bots should try to emulate as well.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a little bit of a pity. You know, I told her we don't have a lot of time. You know, she should just talk about the experiences, but her little demonstration was really cool. I mean, she had one where the students said that they were very despondent and they can't do maths, you know, and how the empathetic, well, how do you pronounce that? Tutor actually tell them, don't get despondent, you know, everybody has to learn, you know, think a little bit about what you're struggling with, see whether I can support you. And that was actually quite cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to see a demo afterwards, you know, so that'll be nice. Yeah. Thank you.
I can share it.
Okay, so Sithabile, if you don't mind, let's hold you on the line for right at the end. After Dan's presentation, if you're able to, then perhaps just share your screen then. You know, for those that want to, you know,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
okay, great. Right, I think I think we should move on. Thank you again,
Yeah.
Sithabile. I appreciate that. Albert, are you online? Albert Ma? The VectorShift guy? I don't see him. I did confirm with him that he will be available at 16:50. So I don't know.
Maybe he's just joining, probably. Yeah.
I hope so. Because he definitely confirmed yesterday or the day before yesterday, he still confirmed that he would be available. So, somebody is joining now, I think. Albert? Okay, I don't see him. Okay, not joined. Okay. No, sorry, I don't see him. Dan, would you be able then should we give it a minute, or I wonder whether we shouldn't move on to Dan's presentation then. I will see. I don't know. Vijay, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, we could, but it depends on him, if he was focusing on this time slot and if he has other things to do. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Dan is here, so we
That's
can
what
move it along if you
that's
want
what
to.
I'm wondering.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah.
So
Let's go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just looked at the attendee list again, and he's unfortunately not on.
Yeah.
I don't have a telephone number for him, so I'll just try to reach out via email again.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, I don't know. Well, yeah, I think let's move on.
Yeah.
So Dan, thank you so much for standing in earlier then. You know, and basically going over, so you can share. Thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can be flexible and such. Let me make sure my hair is good. All right. And I am going to share this particular screen here. So my name is Dan Arnold. I'm the manager of support for our online learning team here. For a better part of the last year, you'd be surprised that I work in e-learning because I've had such a focus on AI. I also teach in our School of Education and Human Services, and which is where I found a lot more benefits so far with incorporating generative AI into that particular aspect of my work. And what I wanted to do today was just show you some of the things that I've been up to and some of the tools that I have used to great effect, and possibly have some conversation about how you might be able to incorporate this into what you teach as well. Because regardless of discipline, I think that we can find a lot of usefulness in these tools to help free up time. And professors have often expressed to me that they have a hard time developing or dedicating time to developing content online or developing their course, as well as maintaining research obligations and publication requirements for their own tenure and promotion purposes. And I guess that's at the spirit of why I put this together today. And we're going to look at 3 tools: Google Notebook LM, Gamma, and ChatGPT, each of that I use for different purposes, but to really pull all 3 together and use them in a productive way. So a little bit more about just how I'm approaching generative AI in education. We know that AI analyzes data, and that the introduction of generative AI is looking at generating new content, which to me really revolutionizes some of the educational possibilities out there for creative lesson planning, for building, deeper assessments and boosting educator efficiency. And on the student side of that, we look at creating those adaptive learning experiences along the lines of the presentation we just saw. 24/7 tutoring bots is a good place to start to help increase the access to high quality content for students at any time of the day. I'm not often up at 2 in the morning. Sometimes I am, but I understand that's when many of the students might be at working on coursework and such too. The opportunity for them to have something readily available, immediately available at any time, really helps push their learning at the times when they need it. And we can also, our learning management systems, like we use Moodle, already have some components of AI built into it, and that it automatically can grade some types of assessments, usually quizzes and such too. But all of this is an attempt to free up educator time to work on higher level teaching aspects, more individualized learning for students, as well as dedicating things that you'd have to do for service and research obligations. The first tool I want to look at is Google Notebook LM. Any thumbs up for people who are familiar with Google Notebook LM or have tried using it? I love this tool. And I had seen something mentioned about RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. This is a great introduction into that type of AI application. It's a great way to organize information, to share information, to structure notes, and really summarize a lot of information. So I wanted to pull up a version of what I've been doing here on Google Notebook LM. We have to use a personal Gmail account for this. I can't use my university one because it's not an approved tool. But for a course that I've been teaching this semester, Human Resource Development 3210, I have been coming in here and essentially taking the PowerPoints that came with it from the publisher. You could also develop your own PowerPoints if you prefer. But taking this information, converting it to a PDF that now serves as essentially a tutoring bot in its own way, based off of just the information that you've given it. So in this case, this is just for chapters 14, 16, and 17. And what I can do is I can now interact with this content in a different way. It gives me some pre-canned options, all based off of just what was in these PowerPoint files of questions that I could ask. So in this case, discuss the challenges and strategies for creating effective multinational teams, drawing upon the text insights. So I'll click on this, and it's going to have a very similar feel to what you would see with a large language or foundation model. But it's only pulling information from the documents that I gave it. So you can see it's going through and giving a pretty good breakdown, as well as citing sources on where it pulled that information from and how it's building that. Again, these are just strictly off of PowerPoint slides in PDF format. And I have found these to be effective in helping guide how I develop content and pulling out key issues as well. Where I have found a great deal of power with Google Notebook is in this newer feature called the Notebook Guide. So I can come in here and it will give me a summary of the sources that I gave it. some suggested questions that I might use as driving questions or as forum engagement questions in my course. And I'll show you what each one of these items do here as well. If I close the notebook guide, I've got a briefing document. So it will take that information and really break things down into an interesting outline, pulling quotes through here. You can also get quiz questions or ways to identify potential questions that you could ask on a quiz, or potentially just more discussion questions to help drive discussion in class. I like this because it also gives you an answer key. There's an FAQ. I also use these to help figure out good questions to ask for weekly forums or just for a lecture, and developing conversational questions that are centered around the content. Now, I've done things like this on my own, and I will exhaust myself mentally just thinking of what's a good conversation question to push the conversation for even 15, 20, 30 minutes in class. This can help me identify some higher level questions to help drive the conversation, start the conversation, whether that's in a face-to-face or in an online format as well. My favorite thing, my absolute favorite thing about Google Notebook LM is they have an option up here. I've already got it loaded, but you can create a podcast based simply off of the materials that you have here. And I've been using this to share as a supplement to any kind of lectures, in that people don't have to have a visual component. If they're walking from class to class or commuting to campus, whatever they're doing, they can get this content in a very meaningful way. The podcast uses two distinct voices. You can download it and save it in other ways that you want to. But just as an example, I wanted to play a little bit of the podcast for you to hear.
Welcome to our deep dive on teamwork and culture.
Yep.
We're going to be exploring, how teams work, how they function successfully, and how culture is such a critical part of that.
Right.
Using a couple of sources. One is the book Group Dynamics for Teams, and the other is a presentation we found that kind of relates to some of these topics.
Yes.
So if you've ever wondered why some teams just click and some struggle, this is the place to be.
It's really interesting how those dynamics work, right? It's like they almost have their own personalities, culture.
So I think that's a really interesting way to be able to get this content. Now, this is something that I'll listen to, and if I like it, I'll share it out with my students, but I also encourage them to use this as a way to help explain large documents or maybe complex documents, or make it into more accessible formats for them as well. And since it's just keying in on the information that I gave it, I don't have to worry nearly as much about it making hallucinations or pulling things in. And if it is, it's an opportunity to point that out and let students know, here's something that we should be questioning further in this. Why should we be doing that? But I think that this is a great way to share with students a large amount of information in a way that's really adaptable to how they prefer to learn. So I've had a lot of good feedback on the podcasts and the way that Google Notebook that I've rolled it out into my course. And it looks a little something like this. I just added into the course, and in the name of transparency, I let them know what I used. I give a transcript of it, but then they can also go directly to the content that was used for something here as well. So you can see this is coming through here. So they also have access to the source material if they want to go look at the source material in addition to what the podcast generated. And again, being this is the first semester I have tried using this, I learned about it at the beginning of the semester and have been able to use it to great effect in the courses that I'm teaching right now. And since I can share this guide out, you can add people and you can make them just so that they can view the content, not that they can edit the content. This could also serve as an introduction to a tutoring bot within your class. So this is a free tool. I believe that you're limited to maybe 50 sources per notebook? Yes. And you can just paste your own text in. You can give a link to a website. You can add a YouTube video, Google Docs and Google Slides, because all of these things are very googly, right? So they like to work with the Google information, but you can absolutely upload up to 50 files of content in there, including MP3s, to really make this very robust. And in this case, I do have one that is all of the content, all of the chapters through there as well. And finally, as a last trick that this tool can do, you can also take all of these notes that you have made, and you can add your own notes, and you can convert it to a singular source that now is its own longer document as well. So a lot of power, a lot of potential, a lot of functionality in here just to help streamline content creation, tutoring, bots, and really cool tools for students, and a way to save time as a faculty member as well. The next tool I want to show you is Gamma, AI-powered presentations. I'm actually using Gamma for this presentation right now, just based off of an outline that I used. Gamma is not free. Well, there is a free version, but I believe they only give you 8 slides per presentation. You may be limited on how robust of a prompt that you can put in there as well. But just for fun, to show you how this can work very quickly, and I'll go into a more robust demonstration of it here in a moment. But let's say I just want to make a presentation on, let's try something fun here. Just do dogs. Very basic, just one word. It will generate an outline for me, and I have the option to delete. I can move things around. I can add cards in if I want. But if I say, okay, this outline looks pretty good, I'll continue. You can shuffle through your themes. I'm not going to worry about that for right now. I just want to show you initially how this tool works, and then how I have used it. Just cruising right along here. I don't know about you, but I cannot type this quickly. Nor do I have a very creative eye. This makes very visually pleasing presentations. You can limit the amount of generative AI that is used. These are all AI images, a beautiful dog there. But for me, the presentation aspect there, it's important. You want it to be visually appealing. You want it to be engaging, but it's the information that's really the guts of any presentation, right? And in developing lectures and slides for any talk that I'm doing now, I'm heavily relying on Gamma, because I'm generating an outline, I'm giving it the information that I want, and it can put that into, pretty visually appealing presentations very quickly. And if I don't like this image, or if I don't like anything, I can go in, I can make adjustments, I can change things around, have a different layout. There's a lot of options that you can do to switch this around. Or if you want to add in videos and media, it's very easy to add in YouTube videos or videos from any other service that you use in here as well. For me, I like to have a visually appealing PowerPoint. I'm just not very good at it. It's not a skill that I have. So having access to a tool like this, and it's $20 US per month, there's a lot of value in that. And if I'm a faculty member and I'm creating presentations or want to adjust my presentations, update them, that's a lot of work. It is a lot of work that goes into that. And you're still developing the content, but now you can use this tool to really generate slides quickly for you that are visually appealing, that cover the information, that if you don't like the information, it is easily editable so that you can make it exactly what you need it to be. But I know that it would take me forever to create a presentation this long. Now this was, or this appealing in this long. You can go up to 25 slides at a time, and it's just as quick. It generates things very quickly that are very visually appealing. Oh, I know all about these. I'm a responsible dog owner. My dog wants to get outside right now, but he will have to wait. So you can see one issue I do have with Gamma is that it can be very cookie cutter. It can, generate a lot of presentations that, look very much the same. But at the end of the day, I'm okay with that because it's an assist, it's a job aid. It's not the point of the content or the learning. It's really the tool or the vehicle that I'm using to introduce those concepts. And I find that having much more visually appealing slides, people are more attracted to that than my plain white slide with black text on it, or my other very creative PowerPoint style, which is a black slide with white text on it. That's about as deep as my creativity goes on that side of things. So this tool has helped make my presentations look much better than they used to, or if I had just done this on my own. Now, something that you could consider doing here is I have got here chapter 16, 14, 16, 17. Just for the sake of argument, I'm going to take all of the information here because it is essentially an outline. I've not vetted this information entirely, so please don't think that's just a blind copy and paste. This is really just a concept to show you. And I took that entire outline, I put it in here as a presentation. I don't need to scroll through all of that. I can make it a presentation, a website, or a document. It looks virtually the same either way, just slightly different functionality, depending on what option you choose. See here, it's a little bit different. So now we can come and edit the prompt more directly. So we can edit things here in a larger context. We can also do card by card, so you know how much information is going to be on each item here. Now, I'll scroll through this quickly, but you can see there's a decent amount of content in here for this presentation. And it's just showing one card because I haven't told it to do more than that quite yet. But with the paid version, I've only scratched the surface of the number of tokens that I can put in here to create this particular presentation. I can make the maximum text per card very brief, medium, or detailed. In this case, I'll go with medium. You can pick the different types of image generators that you use. I typically stick with the AI images. But if I hit continue, pardon me, I want to go back and do more cards than just one card. Presentation. Freeform. Let's say 25 cards. We'll continue. Again, not worried about the theme at this point, just really to show you how this tool, again, works. And this is a way that we can stack these tools, taking Google Notebook LM to help generate outlines, to help create content that we approve based off of documents that we have uploaded, so we know it's not going out to make gross hallucinations. So this is still working through here. It's building a ton of information. We're only about getting close to the halfway point. But the point being here is that now I've used retrieval augmented generation to generate a specific outline off of that content, brought that outline over into a generative presentation developer, and am now creating robust content that is editable, that I can then fine tune to make sure that it's covering the aspects and the concepts that I want it to. And I have done that in minutes compared to hours that it would have taken me to really develop that without any kind of AI assistance in there. I think we're getting close to the end of this one. Thank you for humoring me as this has gone through and generated all of this content. But what a powerful tool. This is only one of these types of tools that's out there. There are others like Beautiful AI is another one that comes to mind. But for developing presentations quickly, efficiently, effectively, that are visually appealing, Gamma is a wonderful tool to explore. And the free option, again, I believe you can get 8 slides, maybe up to 5,000 tokens per prompt. And you saw how much information I put in there. That was only 3,600 tokens. You could add a lot more information in the free version as well. So again, rapid creation, automated design, customization, you can change anything in that presentation to really suit the needs of your audience, your students. So I already showed you a little bit of how that works. If you have a topic in mind, it can really generate all of the content for you. I'm less inclined to do that on many subjects because I want to have more control over it before it goes through and generates that, which is why a tool like Notebook LM in conjunction with Gamma, there's a lot of power in stacking those tools on top of each other. And of course, review the information, make sure it is accurate. That's the human component of AI. All the large language models tell you that. Google Notebook tells you, hey, it can make mistakes, double check it. That's their caveat to get out of any liability. And it's smart on their end, but it's certainly a skill that has to come with anything we teach with AI, is that this is not the answer. This is a way to help us get toward the answer more efficiently. We still have to make sure that it is rooted in correct knowledge. And moving right along, ChatGPT, I'm sure most of us have heard of this one by now, but it is a wonderful way to generate ideas, creativity in lesson planning, in content creation, supporting your assessment, your virtual assistants, all of those things. Now you could, theoretically take this outline that we have here. You could use that within ChatGPT to help make things more concise. We already know how to do that to help, drive the learning a little bit. But since you mentioned it now, I'll show you my little beta bot that I made here. It's not terribly robust. This was my first really, shot at doing this, and it does require, the paid version to start building your own transformers out here. But what I started looking at doing, since I work in supporting our online learning environment, is I wanted to have something that faculty could use to prompt against for Moodle support. And so students could also use it for Moodle support. And when you build the AI assistants out, you can give it certain documents, you can give it documentation to look at. You can tell it which websites you specifically wanted to refer to and to only refer to those websites. And in our previous presentation, we talked a bit about prompt engineering and how that can be difficult. This does try to alleviate some of that concern. If you are going to develop your own GPTs out here, I would strongly urge you to write your prompts in something like Word or in Google Docs, because it's not always great about giving you your information back to you on how you prompt it and how you set it up. And having that clear line of thought throughout that development process, in my opinion, you absolutely need that. Because these bots, when you build it now and it's effective now, that doesn't mean it's going to be effective in 6 months or in a year. Information could have changed. Things could have changed. The tools you're using could have changed. So I would also encourage you to build a routine maintenance cycle into these to make sure that it is still pulling from the correct information and that something hasn't changed, or perhaps use that for a version 2 of it that could be in development simultaneously while one is being used. So document your process, document your prompts before you put it in, because it'll be a heck of a lot easier to recall things that could be fine-tuned a little further down the road. So at the start of each semester, we open up our Moodle courses to faculty 1 month before the class starts. And to students, they get access a week before courses start. So we have some pre-programmed questions in here. What should I do if my course is not showing up on Moodle? Now, not every place that uses Moodle uses that same approach. Some open them earlier, some open them later. It's each place's individual choice. I have trained this one to understand within the context of Oakland University when we typically do that. And students can quickly get this information by having access to this particular bot. It also encourages you is encouraged not to make up information. And if it's unsure of what to do, here are some other places that you could go and check to get help. But I specifically built this to be a Moodle support bot. But when I opened it up to the rest of Oakland University's website, I saw some interesting things happen. Now, I didn't give this any, let's try this again if it wants to mess with me a little bit here. So I did not train this on anything academic advising related. I didn't give it any documents to refer to off of this, but it certainly gives me information on what to do, on how to find some of this information, or when does registration open? But it's giving links and resources that are institutional specific on where to find that type of information. And again, this is 24/7. It's always available. If you're going to defer to a website to inform you and give you a lot of the information, you also have to make sure that the information on that website is accurate. In an institution like Oakland University, we've got layers of websites that can get increasingly complex. So that's something I'm really working through to make more targeted support type bots. And as we start to move into things like agentic AI, where we're starting to separate more of the human tasks from the AI tasks and some of the behaviors associated with that, I think understanding that component along with the source information is going to help to make for more productive AI applications throughout the organization. This intent was really more so for the faculty and student side of things. I've got other things in the work for the administrative side. I believe I'm getting close to time on this. So if there are any questions, I see some things have popped up in the chat since I started talking. So let me see if there's any questions there.
Dan, can you type progress to degree? I can't find degree works anywhere now with the new MySail. I'm curious to see what's going to say.
Okay, well, I'll put it over here instead of.
It points to the old MySail, probably.
Quite possibly we would have to look at that, but that's, again, I mean, having accurate information on your website,
Right.
driving what
Yeah.
these responses are. It's a large coordinated effort from, say, our communications, our UCM unit to really
Right.
coordinate what's going on with the web.
Yeah.
I see a question here. If your institute is part of the Google group, can we use our work email for Notebook? I can't use mine. We are a Google school because they have not enabled access to Notebook LM institutionally. So I'm using my personal Gmail account to access Notebook. And if students, you'd have to encourage them to use a non-university email to access that as well.
Yeah, it's funny, these institutions, just from my side, we're also a Google house, but they don't open the institutional subscription to these tools, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna ask Albert joined, but he joined basically just when you started, Dan. Can we park your Q&A, because he says he doesn't have a lot of time, unfortunately. So can we just park our Q&A for both? But thank you, this was very interesting. But I think we're going to basically discuss tools. So he's also going to discuss a tool, and then we basically park the Q&A after Albert has spoken. Is that okay? So sorry for that.
Yeah.
No, that's perfectly fine, and I'll put my email in the chat.
Yeah, I just wanted to say people asked for your email. I think this is wonderful. I think you gave us quite a lot of very nice tips, given that our academic year is starting in January in South Africa. Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, sorry, I did get it that you're done, right? You basically, done?
Yep, that's the gist of it right there. So we can move on.
Thank you so much. Albert, do you want to share? So as we said in the beginning, Albert is one of the co-founders of the company VectorShift, which is basically a no-code AI agent development environment. What is nice about VectorShift for us, and as I said again, it was basically just my exposure, is the fact that you could use different LLMs. It's not tied into a specific big vendor, like Google, Gemini or so. So Albert, over to you. Thank you. You can introduce yourself and the company also if you want to. Thanks.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for your time. And thanks kind of for the brief intro. Little brief intro on me. We kind of started VectorShift about a year and a half ago. Just like almost every AI company started about kind of last year. And, a little background on myself. My co-founder and I, we met at Harvard. We were class of 21. This is actually our second kind of business together. Our first business, we grew to $1 few million in revenue. We sold that business back in college. And then I was at McKinsey for a few years. And then started VectorShift about a year ago. We went through this accelerator called Y Combinator and kind of raised a few rounds of funding last year. And we're kind of pushing kind of to our next milestones. The reason why we built VectorShift is because we realized kind of couple things. So one thing is actually what Aurora just mentioned, which is different companies, is that there's going to be a lot of LLMs basically in the world in the future, right? And you've already seen it. OpenAI has one, Google has one, Anthropic, Mistral. There's many of them, and that there's going to be a flourishing a lot of models that do many different types of things and actually are good at many different types of things, right? You might want to use OpenAI for one task, but you might want to use Google for another one, right? And it's quite difficult because to do this if you are not a developer, because there's no way OpenAI is going to put Google's LLM on their platform, right? Like the notebook LLM is Google's LLM. There's no way they're going to put OpenAI's model on their platform, right? It doesn't make any sense from a business perspective for them. So we want to give people the option based on your use case to use whatever LLM you want and to test it out, test out what works best for you. And, I think in 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years, as these get more developed, these models are actually going to get more specialized, right? And just like almost every field gets more specialized. And you might not want to get locked into using one model, right? So that's one reason. The second reason is obviously to help people build workflows really fast, or whether you're a developer or you're someone who's non-technical. And we realized that almost every AI workflow is actually kind of doing the same thing under the hood, right? So I was listening kind of to the last presentation, and we were talking about building kind of a chat assistant or generating content, right? I think are two of the main use cases. It's actually, the same thing under the hood. It's kind of what we realized when I was doing I was actually coding a deployment for one of my McKinsey clients at McKinsey. I was doing multiple deployments, and you realize that under the hood's actually the same thing. It's just the content is displayed differently. And I can show you quickly how to build kind of a assistant in kind of VectorShift, but kind of a talk through kind of that idea. But really, really briefly, because I like to explain things from first principles. What an LLM is it's literally just a math equation, right? I think people would try to explain it very complex. Maybe I'll just open up a brief slide and we can just draw it out. Back in school in algebra, right? We all learned like y equals mx plus b, right? This is like an equation with one parameter, right? X, right? All an LLM is, it's just one of these with a couple 100 billion and soon trillions and soon hundreds of trillions of parameters, right? And every time you're calling it, they're just plugging in these numbers, and it's trying to generate something called next token prediction, trying to generate the content. That's why you see it like generate from top to bottom. It's always predicting the next character based on the previous characters. And all it is just running this equation. There's actually nothing that difficult under the hood. It just takes a lot of work to train that model, but it's literally just an equation with a lot of parameters. And as a result, every time you're running this equation, it's very, it's the same equation, no matter what you ask it, right? It's just a math problem for the model, right? And it doesn't know who you are. It has no idea what your business situation is. And that's why there's this thing called RAG, right? That I think we mentioned also in the previous presentations. What RAG is something called retrieval augmented generation, right? And the word augmented, right? The A is we're augmenting it based on your context, right? It has no idea what your situation is, but if you give it context, it's going to generate something more pertinent to kind of what you want. And that's similar. That is the same thing, regardless of you're building a chat assistant for your students, or you're building a blog, you're building a sales proposal generator, that you're building like a lesson plan, or you're building PowerPoint slides, like you need to get a generator pertinent to where you are, pertinent to your students in your lesson situation, right? And we built that whole platform off of this framework because we think it's a very robust framework, and that it's going to be, something that over a long period of time will still be there. Okay, so if we're going to walk you through a brief background on our platform, we have multiple different layers. I'll just go through, I think, 3 or 4 of them that make it easy to kind of understand kind of what we do. I think at the bottom layer of our platform is this product called Knowledge, right? And this is the augmentation part, right? It's how to actually optimize your data for AI workflows. So when you create a new knowledge base, right? We call it a knowledge base. Let me just put a basic one in here. It basically allows you to put all your data in one place and centralize it in one place. And you might have, for example, a textbook that you want to put in here, right? That makes it actually, and you want to, reference pieces of it. Maybe, I don't know what tools you guys use. Maybe you guys have data in OneDrive. Maybe you have your previous lesson plans in OneDrive. Maybe you have notes in Google Drive as well, or Dropbox. Most organizations that come to us, they have data everywhere in a company, and that's normal, right? When a company matures, this data gets scattered. And the whole point, you need to make AI useful to your situation. So you need to give it useful information to tell it like how to generate things, right? So you can connect, I'm just doing a quick example. You can connect, for example, your Google Sheets. And this is my personal Google Sheets, the sheets in my Google Drive. And you can select what you want to connect. And what it's going to do is, when a student asks a question, or you're going to ask a prompt to generate a lesson plan, it's going to go look into this knowledge base. And we've enhanced it with all sorts of metadata to make sure it finds the right information so that it's generating things relevant to you, right? So all you got to do is now you got to choose, whatever you want kind of to integrate for your specific use case, right? So maybe if you're creating a chat assistant for a test, right? You probably want to link all your lesson notes and all your respective tools, for that situation, right? So I'm just going to choose one spreadsheet, but you can create multiple knowledge bases for different situations. If you have different units, you probably want to create different chat assistants, right? So you can now link to that sheet, and then say when you update the sheet and you update the drive, maybe, there's a last minute change. Maybe you want to create a chat assistant for every unit that you're doing with your students. You want to upload the PowerPoints as you're doing them, right? To your students, and the assistant is kind of like an assistant that progresses with the student. All you got to do is upgrade to the drive. We live sync with the data, and when your students kind of query it basically have the amount of information that you have taught so far in the course. All right. So once the live syncing is set up and the knowledge base is created, you go to a situation, go to our pipelines page, and our pipelines page is basically a no-code builder to build any AI workflow, right? You could build PowerPoint slide generators. You can build lesson plan generators. You could build chat assistants, because at the end of the day, all these products are actually the same thing, right? It's all RAG. All these examples that we did today, they're all RAG, and all it is doing, it's a mapping between inputs and outputs, right? The inputs are just different in every situation. A chat assistant, the input is a message coming in from a student that's asking a question, right? Maybe an assistant to generate PowerPoint slides is just a question that's going in to describe what PowerPoint you want, right? Under the hood of all those platforms is all doing this kind of structure. It's querying a knowledge base, like the knowledge base we just created. Then the knowledge base is processing that information, finding the relevant content, sending it to a large language model. I'm using OpenAI in this case, but clear my drawing. We have all the LLMs that you can use. All you got to do, drag and drop, and clear it out. And you can copy, paste the prompts in here. Back to the pens. This knowledge base generating information, and now this LM has context on what you want, and it has the question that you have, and then it's able to generate output that is relevant to you. And under the hood of all those products and situations, it's something like this. Okay. this is a basic chat assistant that you can make for kind of a lesson plan, something like this. This is probably the most basic version. But once kind of you have this, all we have to do is deploy a chatbot. We call this as a chat assistant. And with just a click, you have kind of a assistant that's put like a chat workflow that's put on your chat assistant that's put on your workflow. You can customize this to kind of your school's branding or whatever situation you want. You hit export, and then you open kind of the chat assistant, and you have kind of a chat assistant that is kind of pertinent now to your lesson plans, and maybe you linked it to your Google Drive, and you can keep updating that Google Drive folder, and this chat assistant will continuously pull the latest and greatest information right into the chat assistant. But just as a high-level overview, you can make many different tools from forms. Maybe you want to create like a form that grades someone's essays, or like gives people feedback on someone's essays, and they put their essay, upload the essay as a document, and feedback comes out, and you grade it against the accuracy of all your context that you give it, right? It's the same thing. You hook the inputs up to the form, press submit, output comes out, right? We also have voice bots. We actually have situations where people with learning challenges actually prefer using voice as opposed to text. This is a pretty simple interface. You just talk into it. We have kind of a search engine that you can build. So maybe you have a lot of documents, handouts that your students need, and maybe they want to just say, what are the most relevant files to algebra? I don't know, to the algebra, I don't know, whatever it is, right? And you'll find the most relevant. This is a demo, but we'll find the most relevant kind of files, and then immediately they can click it and then kind of start studying it that way, right? There's many different tools and situations that I can imagine educators have already used VectorShift for. And it's kind of, whatever kind of you want, and however you want to put the workflows together, however you want to put the interfaces on it, kind of you can, to create kind of the tailored experiences that you want to give to your students. All right, I know I do have to jump to another client call, but I appreciate kind of everyone's time. My email I'll put into the channel. So if you guys have any questions, I'm always happy to hop on a call with you. So let me do that. But Aurona, is there any kind of final things you want to mention?
Oh, thank you. I think this is basically one of the very useful no-code platforms for us in future. So thank you so much for jumping in and demonstrating this. We really appreciate it. And I see you've got your email in there. Yes, the video will be available. That is okay with you, right? Because right at the beginning, we just said that we're recording, and we will just make it available for our group. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Albert. We really appreciate it. So you're dropping off.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great stuff.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, everybody. So we don't have questions that we can put to him. So I don't know whether there are any questions to Dan.
It looks like you guys have used it, right? And so one question that I was going to ask him was, so it provides the API for all the LLMs, but you have to have the subscription for those in order to run them, right? I mean,
so it works a little bit different because you work through the API, you need tokens, right? So it's not similar to a GPT subscription. I mean, GPT, you basically subscribe to the chatbot, right? So you purchase the tokens, and depending on which LLM you're using, you have to purchase tokens.
Right.
So, but I mean, what is nice is many of the powerful ones, for instance, the Anthropic LLMs and so on, are for free, right? But then, the moment you get to more powerful ones and you use OpenAI GPT-4o, you have to buy.
Right.
Yeah, it's similar to what Dan is also discussing, right? With Gamma, it's a front end, so you have to purchase tokens. It's a little bit difficult to figure out how these models work, because for some of them you have to purchase more than one token, as you go through the pipeline. But it's a little bit of a challenge to get into these systems.
So I mean, it looked interesting, but I guess what is the value that you get for how much does it cost? Do they give subscriptions for educational
Yeah,
institutions?
you have to subscribe to VectorShift as well. I mean, like Gamma and all of these, there's a basic there's a basic free interface or a basic free environment that you can use to play with. And then from there on, if you want to go further and build more extensive pipelines, you have to subscribe, right? And I've got different models, different licensing models. And then on top of that, you actually have to buy the tokens for the specific LLM that you want to use.
That you want to use, right?
Yeah, so this for me, the main reason why, I started playing around because I wanted to expose, especially final year students like Sithabile and them, to RAG application development because it's so powerful. And that's basically all these AI agents are going that use LLMs, right? And in the principles of building that knowledge base and how to do that, and then the prompt engineering can be explored, without the student getting bogged down into the code to, for instance, get LangChain or the LangChain environment going. So this was for me where the power lied. Of course, it is a limited scope project, but there are quite a lot of things that somebody needs to understand to develop a GRAG application. And for me, VectorShift provided an ideal environment because it allows for quickly, for instance, changing prompts, right? And making sure that, for instance, your tutor doesn't provide answers to the student directly, but guide the student towards learning, and that you handle through the prompting. And then, of course, the knowledge base that you have to provide and how to do that. Because, knowledge bases, you basically create a vector database again, right? An embedding that you provide as part of the context to the LLM. And all those learnings, I think, is quite powerful. And the no-code helps with that. And then, of course, you can build so many applications. You can build, like Dan has shown, a student interface for Q&A to your course or whatever, because you provided a specific context. And it allows, it also uses the chat history as part of the context, So there are 3 parts of this RAG solution. It's a knowledge base, your prompt, your chat, and your question. Your chat history and the question. Yeah.
How much does it cost? Do you know?
I can't remember. It's not that expensive. And also it depends a little bit on the model that you're using and the amount of tokens that you send. So if you've got a smaller knowledge base, you don't use that many tokens. The bigger your knowledge base is that you provide, the more tokens you basically use. So I can't remember the detail, but it is a little bit complicated to figure out. And of course it changes, as you basically scale or use different environments. Yeah.
The flip side of that, what I'm thinking is, so we are adding one additional layer, right? And so, I'm trying to figure out what is the value added proposition, because we're, adding more moving parts. So a lot of these things that we could potentially do in other environments as well. So I guess, I'm trying to figure out what's the benefit of having VectorShift.
Well, it's a RAG solution. It's a RAG solution. So, ChatGPT.
But all other products also provide that, though, right? So it's not that VectorShift is doing something nobody else is doing.
Yeah, no, it's
so
true.
To me, we're adding one additional layer on top of it. So what is the value added proposition? How does it make things easier? So I guess if we start to play with it, we might get a better sense of it.
I don't really. Okay, so I see we've got a hand, and let me think about how to answer you. But first, let's just handle the easy crypto. I see we've got a hand.
Yeah, sorry, I think I have an answer to the question.
Oh, great.
So at least from my perspective, to answer Dr. Sugumaran, it doesn't seem to only be a RAG solution. It seems to solve something that we are also busy researching at the moment, which is a multi-agent solution to data flows made very easy. So it looks like you're able to obviously have your first input node and your final output node, which is great. And you can incorporate RAG, which is good, but there are other tools for that as well, like you've mentioned. But where I think this UI, this specific approach in particular adds a lot of value is it looks like that mechanism and that interface makes the complexities of adding additional agents, multi-agent flows to your input-output pipeline much, much easier. So I think that, is why I'm excited about that UI.
Yeah, I like the visual aspect of it, but I mean, that is a great point when you're looking more at agentic AI and having agents that work together. There are some people who will be able to put that together, more visually than just say text-based, but I thought it was pretty cool just looking at from an agentic AI perspective.
Okay, thanks.
Right, yeah. So if you're kind of building out complex applications at the enterprise level where you're doing all kinds of processing and then kind of putting, together a final solution pipeline, I guess. Yeah. So if you have more agents collaborating with each other and then kind of trying to do some more complex things, then maybe that would kind of make sense. Yeah. Yeah. Plus the data integration part is pretty good as well because sometimes it's easier said than done. If you have hundreds of sources of information, pulling all of it together, sometimes it's a bit tricky as well. So
yeah, it actually one of the steps in their workflow is to create a tokenized database, knowledge base. So where which it basically tells you, and it allows you to make some choices with regards to how you basically what do you call it? But you create a vector database of your knowledge sources, right? I don't think I'm using the right lingo. Suddenly I've got a brain freeze. I think it's because it's late here. but
I mean, plus also I guess the cost information, right? Is it cost effective or what do we get? I think for specific applications, I think that could be.
I hope that he would be available a little bit longer to answer some of these questions.
No, because that's what I was afraid of. They may have other appointments, and so it's a little tricky. But anyway, but it was good. It was good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I think we are near the end. I don't know whether we've got any more questions.
Zino just typed in, are there other AI
I see. Are there any AI workshops for dummies for HAIs? There are so many things popping up. I think, Zino, everybody is asking for this, right? And I mean, to keep track, it's just insane. Every time I hear somebody speak about this, there are more tools. And what worries me a little bit, the investment to get into such an environment like Dan, your Google Notebook LM, right? It's just, now you're so, what do you call it, entrenched in that platform. It's a little bit difficult to keep options open. Of course, that is the business models of all these large, corporations. They want you to basically become part of the ecosystem and trap you forever. But I mean, it's just insane the number of options that are available every time I speak to somebody. There's something more and something new. And every time, a year back, everybody laughed at the capabilities of some of these tools. And now, I mean, some of them are just amazing. The code generation is one thing, for instance, that is next level. In a year's time, we've seen massive development with regard to the quality of code that are generated by these LLMs. Especially, for instance, the OpenAI code partner, right? That code copilot. I mean, it's just, So sorry, Zino, I can't be more of help there. I think actually there's a need for that, but it's going to be a big job to do something like that. All right. So I don't see any more questions. Do we have somebody from the floor?
So, I mean, even at Oakland, I'm sure every university is wrestling with this, right? So, like you mentioned, Aurona, what tools do we provide at the enterprise level? At a personal level, you subscribe to this, subscribe to that based on your need, and then it adds up as well. But then at the enterprise level, how do you make the decision, right? And so I'm curious to see, what is happening in South Africa. What are you guys doing in your own universities?
At this stage, very little. At the enterprise level, very little I don't know, I can't speak for all universities, but I'm not aware of a lot of AI adoption on enterprise level. If something happens, it happens through the LM, the learning management systems, right? The LMS. So if there are some integration of AI tools into the LMSs, then, you know, that is basically where it's adopted. I'm not aware of, for instance, you know, enterprise-wide or university-wide subscriptions to something like ChatGPT or some, you know, anything like that. So,
yeah, a lot of the conversation I've been seeing around that lately is that, you know, defining use cases, there's definitely the academic side of things, where RAG might be more appropriate for building your tutoring bots or content-specific things. But then on the administrative side, it's determining what are some of the business use cases and what efficiencies are you looking to build. Some are even arguing that, you know, your department should be making a use case to get access to the enterprise version or the X number of licenses that we've, you know, purchased for it, to vet who really needs the more upgraded versions and why. But then we can start to see what are some of the more creative applications and ideas. I think before we can really do something like that, we need to have more basic instruction on even how does ChatGPT work.
Yeah.
And I think that's a workshop I'm going to put together and see what happens starting in the winter semester. But just some baseline knowledge, and then, you know, it's going to be kind of how we do it. We compete for those resources, but I don't need the full paid version of ChatGPT to do many of the things that I'm doing in content development. But in building out a new process, you know, certainly I can see how people in our technology units might need access to those tools to automate and streamline
some of the work. Yeah. Okay, so in the last few minutes, Sithabile, are we going to look at your chatbot for the last 5 minutes or so?
Okay, I was thinking of just sharing the pre-recorded demo that I did.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yes, that you did.
Okay, yeah, that would be. Yeah, if you just put a link or something, we can check it out as well. Yeah.
Yeah, she's got it. They had to submit videos as part of their final year projects. So, yeah, do you have that available? Can you share that?
Yes, I have it open. I'm sharing my screen now.
Okay, great.
It also goes with the voiceover, so I'm just gonna play it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We can see it.
Can you hear? Is it audible enough?
Oh, we can't hear.
Did you share the system sound when you shared your screen?
Sorry?
Said when you shared your screen, did you check the box to share your system audio?
No, but then I think I can just narrate what is going on here. Good. Okay, so this is the interface of the chatbot. So this is what you see when what the learner sees when they open the chatbot. And then, okay, so now here's an example of a learner asking a question. Asking a question like, what is 10x plus 20? Oh, I think the learner is trying to tries to solve for x here. And then now the chatbot responds and gives it responds. This is how the chatbot responds. And then it doesn't directly provide the answer to the learner, but then it tries to guide the learner to the right answer. So here it's explaining how the learner can get to the right answer. Okay, and then now let's the learner is asking for a more advanced, because this is designed for grade 8 algebra, but now the learner is asking for a more advanced level it's now asking for a more advanced level, which is calculus. And then now it responds by saying that calculus is a bit more advanced, so it is out of scope. So it is specifically focusing on the grade 8 algebra content. Here now is another example of a learner asking for something that is irrelevant, which is what is the best car currently. And then now it redirects the learner back to talking about mathematics, grade 8 algebra, and suggests what they can talk about. I think this is not the final demo. Can I just share the final demo, because I think the demo that I opened Here, sorry, I'm sorry, here's the final demo. So this was the final interface of the chatbot. So this is its user-friendly. So now Elena is asking a question about simplifying an expression. Then it doesn't directly give the learner the correct answer, but then it tries to guide them and ask them what they get. So, and then it further guides the learner. So now we move into another scenario. Okay. Now here it's the learner is asking, can you solve 3x minus 4? And then it directs the learner on how to solve that. And it also provides feedback on the learner. So it congratulates the learner for doing a good job. It says, good job on thinking about adding 4 on both sides, showing how it has a user-friendly it has a friendly and empathetic language to grade 8 learners. And then now the learner makes a mistake, which is it says that the learner says that they get 3x is equal to 14. And then it's able to answer and say that no worries, sometimes mistakes happen. So if you have 11 and you add 4, what is the total? So it tells the learner that mistakes happen, and then tries to guide back the learner into getting the right question, the right answer. Mm-hmm. And then now here's another example of a learner saying that they don't understand algebra, they must be stupid. And then now it tells the learner that I want to assure you that everyone can learn algebra. So it's able to encourage the learners as much as it's able to tutor the learners without, for example, providing the answer to the learner. So now it suggests an algebra problem. It suggests an algebra topic that they can do, and then the learner says, "Can you help me with solving equations?" And then it guides the learner into solving equations.
Thank you. That is cool. Yeah, and just to give the context again, of course, this is not really deployment. It's basically a final year project to expose students to doing AI agent development, the basic principles of AI agent development. In this case now with Tutor chatbot, LLM-based chatbot. So thanks for that, Sithabile.
Yeah, that was very nice. Thank you. Maybe we can ask Zino to say something. She said she's a math educator, so if she has any. So are you in high school? Where do you teach, Zino?
Hi. No, I'm in pre-service science and maths teaching at UWC at University of yes, and I'm always exposing. You see, that's a dilemma here, because we need to educate the teachers that's going into the school system. Mm-hmm. And you see, and that is the gap that we have at the moment with regards to staff development. Not all of them are actually, they're very scared of AI. Not even AI, they are very scared of educational technology. And now AI is on top of that. And the problem is the kids out there is outsmarting all the teachers.
Yeah.
And you see, so that is the dilemma. That's why I try to listen to all the teenagers, because I'm not telling you, my nieces, they are telling me about AI tools which I didn't even know about.
Right. Yeah.
So that is the dilemma we have at the moment, is that the students in the school surpasses all the teachers, and I would like to at least lessen that gap between my pre-service teachers going into the active teaching profession.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, because I think, like you mentioned, kids these days, have access to all of these tools, and, they can.
And they've got time.
Yeah, so we want them to actually learn the basics, the concepts, they can get the answers, copy and paste. And so there's a lot of that stuff going around. Kids are kids. And so how do we police them and tell them the right from wrong, and how to use these tools? And so, not just in high schools or schools, even at the university level, we have the same problem. At Oakland University, we're trying to figure out, so we have a task force at the university level that Dan is on, I am on, and trying to figure out what should be the policy at the university level. So it's a tough challenge, and so it's a moving target, and that's the worst part about it. So maybe we have to have more of these, I suppose. So
and I think
we could plan. So Zaina asked, do we have more of these? Maybe there is a need, and we should try to do this, more frequently. I'm sure, there's a bit of learning curve, and people come in with different backgrounds, and so it might be interesting.
Zaina is asking you about your assessment strategies, and I suspect that is still one of the nightmares with regards to AI. Whether we actually, I think AI will be able to assess very soon, very good. The problem is just, do we actually, like with self-driving cars, do we give the authority over to them to make the final decisions about assessment? I suspect there's a little bit more with to do, with regards to assessment than just the use of the tools,
All right. I mean, to answer Zaina's question, it's still a work in progress, Zaina. We don't have the answers yet. I don't believe, a lot of people do at the moment anyway. But, so at the end of this semester, we are supposed to come out with the report to the president of the university, making some recommendations. I'll be happy to share whatever we come up with. We are trying to get, tips and guidance from others that are, a little bit ahead of us in the game. So it's all just learning from each other, so, but definitely, I think there is a need to.
There's definitely a request that you share that, please, from
Yeah,
Zaina.
I will absolutely be happy to do that. And that's why, just not just within US, what do other parts of the world do with respect to this issue, so we just need to have more lines of communication, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay, I suspect on that note, we can call it a day. It's been 2 hours. So thank you, everybody, for the diehards that are still in our meeting. And we will make the link available. And hopefully, we will do more of this in future. I mean, we are quite excited about doing something like this. So thanks, Vijay and Smit, for your support also in putting this together. And then, of course, all our speakers. It was really good. I think in the end, it was really worthwhile. So thank you.
Thank you.
And enjoy.
Thank you, Arnold, for putting it together.
Enjoy.
You
You must enjoy the rest of your day. So we will enjoy our evening.
Yes.
Okay,
Wonderful.
just some closing remarks, and I know there are very few left. I promise, Grant, that I will just quickly talk about the South African chapter, because a lot of us that are here are actually from the South African chapter of the AIS. And they, of course, also have a very active student chapter. So in future, we will most probably look at some events where we can work together. At this stage, we wanted to get an international AIS audience, but I suspect the AIS world problem with the list server hampered that activity a bit. But okay, for you South Africans that are here, Grant is at this stage also very involved with AISSAC. You can also go and have a look at our we've got a very nice LinkedIn page and so on. So I don't know, do you quickly want to talk, Grant, or do we close?
Hi there. Hi, everyone. Hi.
Hi,
No, I
Grant.
think you said what needed to be said. Thank you so much, for Aurona, for the session and for all the speakers. Yeah, so from AISSAC, especially the student chapter, thank you so much for organizing this event, and we're looking forward to future collaborations, especially with working with other SIGs. So thank you so much, Aurona.
That's a big pleasure. Thanks, Grant. So that's also the face of the student chapter at AISSAC. Smit is also involved with AISSAC. So yes, we've got double roles. So thank you. On that note, I think I'm going to call it a day. I see my dogs behind me are also really asking me to go out. So I suspect I have a family emergency coming up. So, but thank you, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Aurona. Appreciate. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.